Jenny, the food system is broken. It's broken with our food system.
I think the overall food system, agriculture being the single largest contributor to greenhouse gases. We're looking at a time where we're warmer and warmer as a climate. People are starting to see food as something that we're looking towards our climate change, and it is an environmental issue that we need to be talking about. We've got plans by the year 2050 to feed the 9 billion people on the planet, to double our food supply, yet we're wasting a third of it, chopping down rainforest, and yet food has this ability to not destroy our planet, but actually to renew our planet. That we can use food for good, we can plant trees, we can put things back into the soil, and it has this amazing ability to be able to self-nurture itself. We're so far removed from food, seafood is a precious resource. And even if we look at the UK as well, it doesn't really matter. We've got food poverty being a huge issue. Yes, at the same time, food has never been relatively as cheap as it is today. And yet we're wasting a third of what we produce. And a lot of that is in that household. So it's not something it's in every part of the supply chain. We can't just find a figure at supermarkets, down the supply chain, we're feeding in our own homes as well, and then restaurants. So there's clearly a way that it is clearly broken, and it feels like there's so many different levels that we can address things and make change. But from my point of view, it starts with an attitude change from the government, from corporates, and from the individual. We start seeing food as a precious resource again, and seeing everything as having value. How do we appreciate that from balance cooking and from changing the way that we work with farms, work with seasons, work with localities. Yeah, it's a huge topic, and everyone's got a different angle to it.
So it's really interesting speaking about how we work with farms. James, I mean, in the group you do a lot of production yourself. How do you think farming and kind of the supply chain works? If we're putting food and changing actually now.
I mean, I think it's crucial. I mean, for us, the whole original idea of the pig was kind of to be working in a fashion that was, how it used to be back in the day. I mean, the original idea was just operating a house that used to just have a wall kitchen garden, a farm, and living off the land. And I think that's kind of, I think where we've kind of gone wrong a little bit. People have no longer thought about what's the season in their own country, but the ripest pineapple, all this time, produce being flown over from other countries. And I think, from our point of view, it's, the whole idea of being able to farm is all about the land, being able to, rotate with crops, understanding the seasons, and also trying to get chefs, kids, people to fully understand the reasons why we work the seasons, the health benefits, the way that, you can actually educate people that food, it doesn't need to come from around the globe to taste it. It's about what's on your doorstep, and supporting those local businesses and local farmers who need you to buy their products because they can't get them into the supermarkets for whatever reason. I think that's that for us that's the most crucial thing. And also making people understand that you come to a restaurant not just to see what the chefs ordered in from their supplier, but being able to go down into the garden and actually see it growing and understand how to harvest it, how to take that education, maybe bring it back home, grow stuff yourself. I mean, a lot of us at the moment, for me, is my big thing. I just want people to start growing a bit of veg themselves.
Food with a real sense of place. I mean, you're talking there about kind of the connection and retailers and so forth. I know that you've got an incredible shop at the moment. I mean, you're doing some really interesting things like connecting producers to consumers through retail. Are there more things we can be doing to do that? I mean, what should retail perhaps be doing as part of this?
Well, I think retail and food has just become big and all about volume and convenience. And touching on Jenny's point, food's precious, totally, utterly precious. And so what we've got to do, I think, in the retail sector is we've got to just have a bit more balance when it comes to food. And we've got these two extremes, and it's very fragmented at the moment. We've got farmers markets going on, at one end, and the ability to shop a little bit with small producers, but it's all very fragmented and there's not enough going on. And then you've got the other end of retail, which is just volume and the cheapest price and the most stock, and it all looking perfect and packaged in a certain way, and just all geared for those reasons. And there's no middle ground at the moment. So certainly what I think needs to happen is more of a middle ground, more balance to that, more celebrating of smaller production food, and helping people understand that it's okay actually not to have food that conforms to the volume stuff. It's okay to have food that celebrates small producers and is totally in season, and that's the way actually we should be living and consuming food.
I think that the whole idea of food being precious is absolutely key. But we do have people living in poverty, and I'm thinking, how do we ensure that those people also see that food is precious? And Yvonne, I know you do a lot of work in this area. How do we ensure that everyone has access to good food? And that we could probably speak for 6 hours about that. Still only scratching it. But what kind of things could we do to improve the access to food for people living in rural?
Most of with a medium to engage with people, to educate them, how do we cook, how do you nourish yourself, your mind, your body and your soul. And that's not like social interaction as well. But I want to look at an end-to-end model where we do cleaning, greening and growing, so we get people out, gardening, taking back the land that's just not used, getting them to use it as a wellness. And then on the other end, we teach them how to cook the produce that they actually grow themselves. We're also looking at the big role in grow themselves. People have they don't know what it is, they don't know how it grows. Is massive in this country. Of the light and be able to nourish themselves,
I think those tools are absolutely critical. I mean, there's that terrible statistic here in the UK that the average household spends 1 hour a week more on social media, reading cookery books, maybe even watching films like this than they do cooking. I mean, it's extraordinary. So an hour a week more Snapchat our lunch than we do making it. How do we encourage people to take time to food? How do we encourage people to actually say that that's something that's worth doing? Because we all say, I say we all, as a nation say that we actually don't have enough time, enough leisure time. Yeah. But if we look at the amount of time we spend year on year watching television, and watching television's time, but that goes up year on year. The amount of time that we actually spend on cooking is going down and down and down. And if you look at it per meal, we spend roughly 7 minutes per meal as a nation on food prep, which is really going to the supermarket, buying the ready meal, putting it in the microwave, and 3 minutes later, taking it out. That is our food prep. How do we change that?
It's got to be, there's not enough joy around food. And if there's more joy around food and people really understood how joyous food is, never mind what it does for your health and well-being, and for your community, if the pleasure of food is enjoyed more and appreciated more, then maybe the will to actually allocate more time will just come naturally. That's the bit that's just lost it a bit.
Do you think that's similar with the education? Lack. It's a wonderful see some ingredients and think, oh, I don't want to label that. Whereas a lot of people, it's confidence, they almost, they see it as extra stressful. And you know, if I was, you're a single mother with 3 kids and you're just thinking, you know, this is the last thing I'm not really sitting on my phone, scrolling, or I want to be watching TV, not this stress thing. And then are they going to eat it? And
I think one of the big things that some of the societies, and I think particularly cooking and art of, you know, it's the skills that you have, those independent skills. Right, taking those independent skills out of the kitchen.
Yeah.
Somewhere else. So food becomes something that when we're doing education happens with the home.
Yeah.
It's not something that happens in the home. So one of the big things we can do for people who are on the road or is keep cooking freeze. So spend a lot of time, spend a couple of hours at the weekend cooking, packing, freezing, and then you can still pop it in the microwave. It's a good nutritious meal that you've cooked yourself and freeze. And one, you know, we're working with one organisation who discuss one free food. You know, you just put it in one tray, you know. And also, when you say bring out what's in the bottom of your egg basket, bring it in, let's see what we can do, guys. You know, making it easy.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, I mean, we work with obviously Royal Academy and the Chef's Doctoral Programme, and our focus is obviously to try and get the kids to influence the parents to sort of stop social media and try and get them to, you know, encourage the parents to cook. We do that through flavour and taste. So a lot of the meals that you remember with your favourite foods tend to be from when you were a child. You know, so we get the kids understanding bitter, sweet, sour, you know, all those sort of flavour profiles. We get them cooking in the classroom so that when they go home, they can actually talk to their parents about the flavours of food and hopefully rekindle some sort of memory that the parents may have and encourage them to actually cook. So, you know, I think that is an incredibly difficult thing to do, but and I do believe that social media is always going to be the obstacle. But the fact is, I think that, you know, children, you know, they're inquisitive. They have inquisitive minds. They want to experience new things, and if we can spark something in a classroom and get them tasting really cool different things, then hopefully they'll go home and encourage and inspire their parents to do the same. So that's the way we see it. It's through education and having that next sort of generation who may, you know, from our classes have a certain understanding or education from what we've taught them, and hopefully carry that through. But it is a tough.
Because yours is nicely structured and ours is a bit more free flowing in terms of the education, because I think one thing that I've learned really is, you know, what's the good for them to do? How do we draw them in?
The interesting thing actually was we also do a restaurant scenario where we set up tables in the restaurant. We have children come in and serve each other water and set up. It goes back to what we said about people not feeling as if they're worthy of going in a restaurant. And a lot of the kids, they sit down and they look very, very nervous. You know, I've never been in a restaurant and I don't, you know, but by the end of it, I think it gives them a confidence where they say, well, actually, I could do this. You know, I could welcome someone, sit them down and explain to them. I think it is. It's an experience thing, and I think that the more kids understand that it's open to them and that it's something that needs to be encouraged, I think the better.
I was just saying that the thing that also we all want to be careful of is some of the trends in food really getting in the way, actually, making it even more of a situation where you're stressed by food. Because some of the trends at the moment with diet, the way we eat and our nutrition and all of those things, they are actually doing a counterproductive situation at the moment. They're making food complex and making people worry about stuff, and we've got to bring some simplicity back and some clarity back to it all, because that's actually a little bit damaging at the moment in terms of robbing the joy, making it stressful, and giving even more barriers to actually simple foods are actually quite easy to do.
It is. I think that whole kind of subject is really interesting. I think the whole issue of kind of food and class and perceived class, I really do want to use that. Because I think if we were to go to some of the smarter restaurants around and look at the menus, actually there's an awful lot of really traditional working class food from 60 years ago. And my grandmother was a great cook, and probably why I'm interested in food. I think about the food that she was cooking me, and that my mum cooked, and actually find those on the best restaurants in London. They were, my mother and my grandmother, they were cooking to the same standard, but those dishes. And I think we had a really interesting discussion earlier this time at a Fringe on cruel food when we were speaking about langoustines and scampi, and that langoustines were incredibly middle class and no one wanted to eat them outside of a certain group of people, but actually bread it and put it in the fryer, and suddenly that's food for everyone. And I think that's really interesting. You think about things like head cheese, pig's cheese. I mean, one of my memories of childhood was, was the tripe being boiled up in milk. It was inedible, but tripe itself now is quite fashionable. I think it's really interesting how that's changed. Is there something that we can do to reverse that? Because these things are they're cheaper. They certainly are being used in kind of restaurants and the wider media. How do we actually democratise food? Well, that's a really big question. Open the to all.
Yeah, well, the whole challenge on food waste in the domestic home setting, I mean, just touching on that a little bit, I remember my mother doing the roast on a Sunday, and that being a really, that was our treat for the week, roast dinner on the Sunday. It was a really big thing. And then I remember her going into the kitchen afterwards. Then from that roast preparation, she would make 3 or 4 meals for the week, or create stuff from it, boil up the bones from the joint, make a stock, or make a basis for a soup. It was another hour and a half after we all had a family meal that she would go back in the kitchen, and some of the scraps of the vegetables we'd use for a bubble and squeak on Monday night for supper, and she would do that kind of batch cooking from one meal to save money, but also just to make use of all that kind of food we had on the Sunday. And I think, that we've got to try and help people do that, because that's going to help not only food wasting, it's going to help the making use of food, it's going to help the enjoyment of food, it's going to help people that are time poor. It's almost like that post-war period we had, which really made people feel that food was precious, valuable. Has COVID done it a bit? I don't know.
Well, 80% of the young people into the home system and have come to the care system. And so a lot of the young people that have come to the care system don't have that stable family environment. I've actually, we're probably more kids coming through the care system now. It's becoming actually it's reaching where we don't have enough foster families, and we're starting to go back to some kids and houses in most occupancy to look after them. So we have a stable environment. I'm Scottish, as we all were my home children stable, cooking is a massive part of the culture. You're in that kitchen, cooking is a way of life. Children, you can all cook really, really well. To do the homework, never mind taking their food, because it's more priority.
Why have we left? What's
I think one of the things that's happened is we have poverty in general on the increase. We have so many having basic poverty on the income at the moment, and the problem that we have is in society we've got 4th generation employees at the moment, and we know this is a fact, and actually it's a societal thing. We really like people down. We're not putting in place that to support people to live their lives. So we are working with people who have 3 jobs. They clean in the morning, get the kids up for school, give them a packet of biscuits, take them around to school, get that free school meal, which is invaluable. And the mother's working during the day, and she takes the kids to bed at night, she goes out and works again. And that's the only exception that's becoming the rule. Does that make sense? I think it is the benefit system. I think the benefit system is slightly skewed. I don't think we can afford what's happening at the moment. So one of the great things for me is these people that are sleeping off. They're sleeping on the increase. It's knowledge of the COVID to take these people off the street and and give them somewhere safe to stay on the streets again. So there is an alternative plan for only 3 homes, let's face it. So actually, what is it that we're not doing? And I don't actually have the answer. I don't.
This culture of are not cooking from scratch. It's, I think it's more. But it's culture our attitude is but also I think from generations, we weren't handing down the skill of cooking because it wasn't seen as important. And if you look at France, it's a very different situation. You've still got poverty, but this love of cooking and valuing
social, the social thing, the engagement.
Okay. An embarrassment to care about leftovers in a strange way. I think it's a sign of poverty to actually care about your leftovers rather than and sensible.
I also think there's 3 words, within sort of the world, and that's stacking, convenience, and meat deals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that's 2 words at the end, but yeah. I was just going to say deals, but I don't know with the word meat. But I just think, with this whole culture, you didn't have things like snacking back in the, 60s. Going back to what you're saying about your childhood, I'm guaranteed that, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe an hour or 2 hours before dinner, you said, "Can I have a snack?" Your mum said, "No, we're having dinner at the minute." And I think that what's happening is that instead of talking about cooking, about lunch, dinner, breakfast, about the 3 stable meals of the day, now we're talking about snacking. But I was not convenient, we're just going to pick something up from the system. I'm not saying it, but a supermarket express. I think that we're in a situation where it's just far too convenient. And once you introduce convenience to a very, very busy single parent family or society, you're suddenly in a position where, why do I need to? I've got packet biscuits, I've got a little plastic pot of fruit or sausages with a dip, whatever it is. And it's crazy, and that's what I feel really passionate about. I don't like that whole thing. I think that we need to spin on its head almost, but it's money and it's profitable for big business.
Inside versus the outside, because people spend lots of money on the outside and what's the outside, but not so much time or effort on what's on the inside.
You are what you eat.
And you are what you eat, and that all the time. I'm not right. Then that's when you start to talk about behaviour at school, so how do we turn that right? That's something that I want to say all the time. How do we turn that shine? How do we, you're Scottish, aren't you?
I think that's a really, really good, really good insight there. Because actually, when we think about food now, we actually don't give food as gifts. I think it also goes back into what you were saying about snack. We think about the NHS Eat Well plate, whether or not you're going to eat well using that plate. But anyway, the Eat Well plate has snacks. We can go into the supermarket. We won't name because there are lots of different kinds of supermarkets, but you can find chicken snackables.
Yes.
Why are we buying chicken snackables at £1? Where is the value? Yet we'll then go and buy our food, and I know the word food, you all know what we mean by that, our foodie friends from olive oil. But as you were saying, Jenny, if we go across overseas, we go to Italy, we go to Spain, everyone drinks good olive oil. It's not a gift, it's a pantry essential. Why on earth would you give someone a pantry essential as a gift? It's ludicrous to think that you give us some.
Yeah.
I mean, you would just wouldn't. We've spoken a lot around actual food in this kind of discussion. There is a lot of food poverty, and there's genuine food poverty, and there's also food restriction. What we haven't touched on is things like equipment, because actually equipment's also a barrier. And I'm thinking about a project that we run in Thamesmead where we teach people to cook. And we've been running this project for about 12 years now. And I remember the very first time we went, we decided we were going to cook a chocolate cake, because everyone loves cake. And we knew that if we'd used my grandmother's recipes for liver or tripe, no one would come. And we ran the chocolate cake session, and that was really good. And I went back the second week to see how that had gone. And a woman literally broke down into tears because she baked her son a birthday cake. He was 8 years old. That's the first thing she ever cooked. But what was particularly novel about our cake baking and why I'm speaking about equipment is that when we went there, we were very naive. We knew that perhaps tripe and liver wasn't going to rock anyone's world, like my childhood experience. But actually, we've forgotten that people don't have cake tins. We probably do have cake tins. Those of you who are watching this perhaps do have cake tins. So we actually cook that chocolate cake in a metal saucepan. The metal saucepan is a cake tin. Enormous numbers of families at home have very little equipment. Most people have a saucepan, most people have a wooden spoon. But for huge numbers of people, that is their
Yeah.
How do we start tackling things like this? I mean, there is a wider conversation around food insecurity, but we can only tackle that if we can actually cook.
Well, nutrition and obesity, which actually set plans in well. So we've been doing stuff with people in their own homes rather than them coming to us. But I think what we got in the kitchen, what's the kit that everybody has, and tailor things to that. So we've got what do you have, and being able to adapt things to the kit that they have. You're right, they might have a saucepan, they might have a wooden spoon, not a saucepan, which is bizarre, we've done stuff in frying pans.
We don't have complicated food. So much of this equipment is not needed. Vegetables are so tasty. Bake them with their skins on.
Yeah.
Wash by all means if you really feel you need to, but my God, we complicate it.
Yeah.
So I think half of this equipment thing actually, I'm not sure we always need that equipment in the kitchen anyway. You've got to go back. We've got to go back to how we can cook simply.
I mean, what one thing, I mean, you know, the one thing that I teach my kids is obviously the baking tray. If you've got a baking tray, most sort of kitchens do have it. You know, carrots on the bottom, bit of garlic, a bit of sauce with it, or you can put a chicken on top or whatever meat you want, and cook the whole thing in that tray. I mean, you know, it's the one tray system I think is the best. You put it in the oven, 180 degrees, and within a couple of hours, 1 hour and a half, depending. I mean, I think, you know, it's the easiest way, and I think equipment is expensive, but you know, I think cooking has to be simple, like Emma was saying, it has to be simple, it has to be tasty. And I think, you know, the more sort of recipes that are out there, or more access that people can have to recipes that promote simple, easy to cook food, I think the better.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Oh, but you are. Well, that depends how you do it in the oven. There's certain ways you can do it. The whole thing about just seeing beautiful vegetables lined up on the tray and just a little bit of oil on the top and a little bit of salt.
They're putting themselves into.
Yeah.
So I think it's horses for course.
Yeah. The time element as well.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of those.
You know, it's really easy for us to focus on the one side, but the other question, like when you look
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
when we're looking at how much deforestation, like land use, I always think, we as a company, and there's a company operating, but actually land use is the most valuable thing, because the more you cut down deforestation, and you're this footage of area you need to grow different crops, and the more you're taking out the very thing that takes in the carbon dioxide. So even thinking of what food should be consuming, I find it's a huge part of the whole problem of where is the food industry gone wrong.
Yeah.
And the confusion of what is a sustainable diet and what is the right price for food, and is it for food that's cheap, or chicken, for example, like feeding them on soy, then most, I think almost every chicken that you ever buy has on soy. But yet, yes, having done that well, that land really well, it's sort of why I'm liking it a little bit, it's this whole picture is so easy for us to constantly look at.
Yes, yes.
But actually, what we do in the first place is
yeah.
a huge part of it.
And a lot of it's market driven. So it's market driven, you know, then how do we change the market? And you can only change that by changing the consumer. That's where the market's driven. Because actually it's that demand. But then you know what happens? People want what they know and they think they know what they want, but they only want what they know. So how,
And then it comes back to frustration.
yeah, and how do you take that into the mind?
So the chicken is a classic example. You know, we have this incredible farmer who produces these chickens, and they are the most loved. I mean, the guy lives on site in a caravan, so he can be with his chickens and his ducks, and it's the most incredible setup, and I love it. But we basically we buy these chickens. They're just fed plainly organic. You know, nothing bad in there, and they're huge. Okay, it's because they're happy chickens. They take them a bit later. They grow to full, size in the same way. But what happens is because people condition to the chickens that they buy in the shops, they'll eat them and go, "God, this chicken is tough." And it's not tough. It's free range. It's been running around, a hillside, for a period of time where it's actually built muscles, and there's now actually a healthy, tasty chicken. But because it doesn't melt in your mouth and fall apart, it's people don't understand that this is how chicken should be, and it's not tough, but it's firmer than you'd expect from a chicken that doesn't do anything. I think that is also the issue. It's very hard for people to say we want this chicken, but in actual fact they're moaning because it's not like it's very, very saddening for me, but it's a big eye opener as well. And how can we change the system when the consumer doesn't understand what it is they want?
Education again comes back and feeds into your point, if people really understood it more, then we could really potentially change buying behaviour, and then we could influence supermarkets and the masses, and then hopefully we could do some good changes. But the other thing is on that chicken point, we sell chicken that's been fed only with herbs. So 15 varieties of herbs, the most succulent, amazing chicken. And the other thing they do, Edward, the farmer who has his happy chickens as well, is he has committed to only washing these chickens with water, nothing else. So from a food standards point of view, the hoops that he is having to jump through to make sure that obviously absolutely everything is perfect, which is absolutely right, even though that chicken will be cooked at 180 degrees in an oven and it will be fine. But he's having to jump through a lot of hoops in order to produce chicken that is this ethical. And we've had to educate some of our customers in the shop, because when you open the chicken packet, it smells a little bit more than the chicken you buy from the supermarket, because it smells of chicken, it smells of meat. And that smell, we've had to educate people, it's fine, it's perfectly normal, it hasn't been washed in a chemical. That's why it does smell. But once again, it's this whole education thing. Education is absolutely.
Way to eat. Is it vegan the most sustainable way to eat? Because that's what's being sold,
That's a whole other lecture.
That's a whole other
Do you look at the Terra Fringe website or we're not going to discuss that in this lecture, but I think you're actually teasing out something which is really, really interesting, because actually we've spoken a lot today about food insecurity and food poverty, and quite rightly so, because there are people living in food poverty. But actually most of us in this country are living in food poverty. Most of us can afford food. We can't afford steak every day, and actually touching on whether or not we should be vegan, we should be eating the steak every day, whether we choose to eat it or not. But actually most of us can afford. And I'm kind of minded, yesterday when I was sitting at home, my letterbox kind of rattled, and I went along to see what was there, and Domino's had, well, you know, paying someone put the notes through my door, but you know, they were proudly advertising 2 pizzas for £19.99 as though this was the most incredible deal. I don't know how much your chickens are in your shop, but I can guarantee they're not, you know, nearly £20. And that pizza is going to feed someone one night, and that is being sold as something which is really, really expensive. Yeah. So it's about, I think, also our notions of what value of food is. I mean, when I go to the pig, I have the most incredible food. It tastes of food. It tastes of chicken. Chicken tastes of chicken. I'm getting food with a sense of place. And whichever pig I go to, I get a sense of where I am. And I think they're incredibly well priced. Yeah, I think there will be others. I don't even say actually the pig may get, you know, slightly more expensive than they wish to pay. Yet they would be paying nearly £20 for a pizza, which I would consider to be incredibly overpriced. How do we stop tackling those kind of issues?
Yes.
Somehow it's obviously it's more expensive to buy a certain type of chicken, but actually if you pay the premium for it, you will value it more. I actually think there's something in lockdown that slowed us all down. My own home is forced us to start eating what's in the fridge and being playful again, and getting back into that love of cooking again, or seeing, you know, challenge and questioning, do we ever waste things in our own home? We now have a vegetable field the week where sort of bag and freezer, there is no do anything with vegetables, pop it into that bag, and then the bag comes out, and yeah, these vegetables can be blended up, and there's just constant questioning of what could you do with different things. I think if you have a chicken that costs £20, you'll then afterwards think back and start with the fan.
Yes.
Use it, oil burns, yeah. And there is also now the day around 8, right? Nutrition. Well, it should be 10. 10, 1 to 10, and they said it's not palatable. But isn't there something wrong? I mean, actually, if you get the right fruit and veg, you'll get nutrition in there. It's not being skewed up with the rose. It hasn't been cut with water. You still get the nutrition from the quantity of food you need to consume.
The reason it was 5 is considered 5 as achievable. So the average, the average consumption in the UK today is 1.2 portions of fruit and vegetables today. So in aggregate, 1.2. And ideally, we should be eating at least 10 portions.
As I say, I think if you ask the nutritionist, they're running on like 15.
Yes, what are the different challenge? So we have variety then better competition every week, but yeah, but actually when you're right that value thing, if somebody values something, they make more use of it, if that makes sense. It all comes back to for me, education is huge.
Somebody mentioned the seasons as well. The education, it's September, probably is September, the seasons of September,
Yeah,
and actually,
that's the best time.
if you change that attitude, when you see that I'm going to benefit myself, things that are in season, and it's good for my body, I think that time I should be eating.
Parsnips. Parsnips are the ones I always use for kids. Because in the winter, obviously, everything's quite brassicas, it tends to sometimes be a bit bitter, all that sort of stuff. One thing which I always say to kids is carrots and parsnips, you wait, you know, you're not supposed to eat them until before Christmas. You've had a few frosts, and then the parsnips turn all of that starch and sugar. So, you know, suddenly you've got a lovely burst of sweetness in the winter.
Yeah.
You know, so you haven't got any fruit, you haven't got any of that sort of stuff, but that is the fruit of the winter. It's almost root veg. And that's what I love.
That joyousness is go through that.
Yeah.
And, it's getting that lovely natural excitement back to food and natural seasons and you know, in this crazy world we live in, actually wonderfully grounding. What's going through the educational push that needs to happen is the acceptance that this could help people's mental health beyond belief, to have that connection with food again.
So, as we're slightly drawing to a close now, what I'm going to do is ask all of you to give your wish. You're working different segments. What is it you would like to have? What one thing? You know, if I could wave a magic wand, or maybe I'm here in DEFRA, and I'm a policy exec, and you're going to pitch to me your one wish. Jenny, what would you like?
Oh, Jenny, first place now.
I mean, for me, my one wish would be that every single school, whether it's primary and secondary school, puts a load of money into educating our young children how to cook, how to eat, how to enjoy food, and understand 100% where the food comes from, so that we can have the next generation of kids coming through who fully appreciate everything that they eat and how everything is produced, so that they have that education that they can make choices as to what they put into their body, so that they can carry that forward and we can breed a nation of people that are educated about food.
Yeah, I'm sort of linking on to that. For me, it's that more people have the ability to totally enjoy one of life's single pleasures, which is food, which is precious and wonderful and can give so much joy to you as a person. Just more people have that joyous experience with food, whatever background they come from, just more joy around food.
Please do something about that. It's heartbreaking when people without, and then would be that education piece. Because obviously, the younger people the more we can change it, it will take 2 generations to change us as a society. So we can start with our young people now, we can really begin to change, and then people to basically go back and be rooted in the land, understand how things grow, how we farm things, whether it be whatever, but to be connected to that, and then to understand how do we get the most out of that for our lives and put more inside rather than outside.
And I'd love to see businesses, corporations, governments really forcing people to be accountable for how their footprint, and for that there's visibility to consumer on that, and also from the food industry. So from a supermarket where you're educated on what we want to do, where you can make change with purchase, that you that hope that we do live on a beautiful planet, green and bountiful, climate fluidity and a better future in ways that we can change the world to nurture itself.
That's really incredible. I mean, I've taken away some really fascinating things from this, but I think the word that I keep hearing throughout today is the word joy. And I think joy is really important. We know that lots of people exclude themselves from food. I think everyone deserves joy. And I think food is about a sense of place. We've spoken a lot today about food poverty and about those that really don't have access to food. And if you're hungry tonight, then maybe the packet of custard creams and food bank is a good thing to eat, because if you're hungry tonight, you need some food. But food is far more than calories. Food is about a sense of place. It's about love. It's about a connection to your family, and it's about sitting around the table. Good food isn't necessarily expensive. It's not necessarily always the cheapest. The 18.99 pizza meal deal is expensive. The chicken, which is maybe costing £15, is much less expensive, even though it may seem more expensive than the £3 bird in the supermarket. We've had the most incredible panel here today. I hope you've enjoyed listening to both Jenny, to James, to Emma, and to Yvonne. Have a look below to see their contact details and the kind of work that they're doing. And thank you very much for watching today.
Thank you.
End. Yeah, and then end to all.